he just went low. He's in his head. He's in his head. He's open. His head wide open. Cracked open is amazing.
Hey, what's going on guys? It's Marman2100 back again with another episode of the How's My Team series. So it is Saturday night currently as I'm recording this. That's why the lighting looks pretty bad. But let's start with a great result. So as you can see, I'm wearing my Wanderers jersey. I'm wearing it this week. Just literally the game had only just finished. 3-1 win over MacArthur Bulls for the Wanderers. So that also confirms that we have a home final. Unfortunately, it is an elimination final because both Melbourne City won 4-1 against Sydney FC, which means that Adelaide United will play finals. That's the first thing. The second thing is that obviously Melbourne City ends up being second. And then Western United ended up winning 4-2 at home against Auckland FC. So Auckland FC have been beaten with their unbeaten run. Obviously they have lost a couple of games. This is their third loss of the year. But when it comes to them, ultimately, I think they kind of had a little bit of a back seat. They did, obviously, Western United, I think, got in front by 3 goals, I think, at the start. And obviously Auckland did eventually move back. But yeah, 3-1 against MacArthur Bulls. Though it was looking a bit stressful because MacArthur actually scored in the first 5 minutes. So it was looking like it was going to be a stressful night for the Wanderers. Ultimately, at the time that obviously the game was being played, I was watching most of my cousin play. My cousin was playing locally and playing at home. Had the weekend off, and my dad was like, "Oh yeah, do you want to go to the game and watch your cousin play?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And they ended up winning 4-3 in a very competitive game. Not sure how they're doing in terms of how many total teams are in this competition. I think they're 13th, but they got an extra game in hand because there's one where it was a no result due to a few outside factors. I didn't obviously pry on what was happening, but it was a 4-3 win over the team that was in 9th, I think, in this competition. So great result for him. It was a great night. He is a goalkeeper, so he had a pretty good night. Unfortunately, did have an own goal. It was the third goal, but in terms of how he tried to save that play, there wasn't much else he could do. Ultimately, he come out of the box. He hit it with his forearm, so it would have been handball, and he probably could have been sent off as well if the goal didn't get scored. He did stick out a leg to try and bat the ball away, but he didn't hit it. It was full stretch, and he couldn't hit it enough that it would clear the post, so it went in. But yeah, it was 4-3 win for him, and obviously a 3-1 win for the Wanderers. So yes, we played Melbourne Victory. We don't know what day it is yet. Obviously, like I said, the game just finished, so we don't know exactly what time that game is going to be on. It's going to be during the week, next weekend. But we don't know whether it's going to be Saturday or whether it's going to be Sunday. But yeah, obviously they scored in the 21st minute, the 55th minute, and then by the time I was home, they had only just scored their third goal, I think within a couple of minutes of me actually watching the broadcast. So I was really happy with that, really happy result, really good result. Obviously it's a home final, home elimination final. It's unfortunate that we couldn't get second place to completely skip the elimination final because um, in terms of elimination finals, it can be a make or break moment for a team. But ultimately, we've got a home final, so we're playing at home at Combank Stadium in Parramatta. So so we'll finish. However, the result goes tomorrow with victory against the Jets. We'll be in fourth, so we'll have a home elimination final, as well as Western United also hosting the other one against Adelaide United. But again, like we said, don't know what days those two games are going to fall on. One's going to fall on one, and one's going to fall on the other. But we don't know whether it's going to be the Saturday or the Sunday after the Sunday game or the Saturday game. Whereas Auckland FC and Melbourne City do have the week off. I'm not sure exactly how the bracket works with finals in terms of who plays what after that. Have they got it on here? I'm just on the A-League app. I don't think it has. I don't think it has the bracket up there yet. No, it doesn't have the bracket. So they have the women's game at the moment, which obviously one of those went to draw today, I think. Yeah, 2-2 draw with Melbourne City and Central Coast, which is a bit of a shocking result because I think Melbourne City were down. I think they were almost down. They were down 1-0. I think they worked it back to 2-1, and then Central Coast scored in the last 10-15 minutes or so. So it ended up being a 2-2 draw, which obviously that will end up going back to Melbourne. It will be a Melbourne game for Melbourne City. They'll be on the home leg, and then it will be whoever obviously scores more goals, then the other team will go through to the grand final in that instance, because that'll be next week's game. But ultimately, because it's all square, whoever scores more goals next week is going to be the team that goes to the grand final. Obviously, they have Adelaide versus Victory tomorrow before the normal A-League game, I believe. Yeah, it is. Is that at home? Let me have a look. No. Okay, so Adelaide United play at home in the first leg at Cooper Stadium against Victory, and then they go on the reverse leg the next week. So yeah, interesting result, but obviously a 3-1 win for the Wanderers, confirming home final and a home elimination final. Unfortunately, that other results couldn't go our way, but what else can you do? And you've played your heart out. Obviously, I think we're 11 games unbeaten now, 11 or 12, and that's a really, really great result. So can't be too upset with that, considering we're behind 1-0 in the first 5 minutes. They just worked right back and didn't panic or anything. They just worked hard for each other and ended up winning the game 3-1. So can't be too upset with that. So we'll see what happens with my other teams leading into Sunday. Alright, early Monday morning, and went through hell on Sunday because all the rest of the teams they follow or lost. But yeah, let's talk about Liverpool first because they lost 3-1 to Chelsea, though Chelsea did give a guard of honour before the game, as we did quite a number of years ago when they won the league. We did the same thing at Stamford and at home at Anfield. So they did a guard of honour, which I respect. I respect a lot from Chelsea because they're a decently good team. And they won 3-1. It could have been 2-1, I believe. Obviously, there was an own goal for the second goal that Chelsea scored. It was It's the other goal that I'd seen of the game, and it was pretty funny in terms of how it happened. Like it was a bit of a scuffle, and a mess. But yeah, so 3-1, not ideal, but it does keep their hopes of Champions League football alive. Because I think even down to Aston Villa, I think who are in seventh at the moment, they're in with a chance to make it as well, but they've got to win more games than a lot of teams in front of them. Even Arsenal not safe in second because Manchester City, for whatever reason, even though they're having a shit season, they're still in third and they're 3 points behind Arsenal at the moment, and Arsenal keep dropping points like nothing else. So they're in a situation where they might not even be second at the end of everything. And we play them next week. So we play Arsenal next week. I thought it was this week, but it's the next game. So who knows at this point? It could be a draw, it could be a win for Arsenal, it could be a win for Liverpool, and it puts more pressure on Arsenal to win the next couple of games to stay in second. But who knows at this point? We've got some good teams even in the top 10, realistically, that are fighting for European football right now, which is, it's exciting. It's exciting to see all these teams trying to vie for a spot to play in the top European competitions, like obviously Champions League. We've got the top 5 teams from the Premier League going into that, and even looking into the top 7 for even Europa League and the Conference League as well. So going to be an interesting time, interesting situation, and we'll see how things go, especially for Liverpool. Obviously, unassailable lead, so they're still going to be champions. But 3-1. Not ideal. First time in a long time that Chelsea had won against Liverpool in the last 4 years, I think it is. So bit of a weird situation, but what can you do? So the lighting's probably going to be bad, but it's Monday night. Actually the latest I've probably actually recorded one of these segments. I think maybe one segment so far. I've done this late, but we continue the losing streak with the Titans because they lost again at Magic Round against the Bulldogs, 38 points to 18. It was actually a decent first half. Literally, I think if I can scroll down, we were pretty close between like the halves. So it was 14-8 at half time. It was looking like it was going to be an absolute shit fest for the Titans, especially with being a man down with I was going to say Toby Sexton. No, that's not right. With Tommy Weaver going down in like the first couple of minutes, I think within like the first 5 minutes. So we were a man down on the bench to start off with, and it was our halfback as well who'd actually been playing. Despite the results, has actually been playing pretty decently the last couple of weeks when he come back in. And I felt like with him being in there, if Kieran Foran was to come back within the next couple of weeks, obviously, that he'd be there until Jaden Campbell obviously come back. That would have been great between him and Kieran Foran, just until Jaden come back in the side. Unfortunately, he got a Category 1 head knock, so he won't be able to play for the next 11. He's off for at least the next 11 days, so he won't be able to play on Friday against Newcastle, which is our next game, the 6 o'clock game, so it is the earlier game on Friday night. So unfortunately, he'll be missing that game as well. So with that loss and with a few results, obviously the Panthers going over the Broncos, Broncos once again somehow screwing us in the fact that they can't play against the Panthers for whatever reason. That puts us right down in 16th, so second last. We are lucky that we aren't in last because the Eels are on the bottom. They did have the bye last week, so that's why they haven't moved up. Otherwise, we'd be right down the bottom. And I feel like it is going to be a situation where a lot of the blame is going to be put on Des as a coach. I don't think it's Des that is the issue because there's a lot of players that are not playing to the best of their ability right now in this side, and I feel like some more players are going to get dropped for other players that have been wanting to play for at least, especially the last few weeks, but almost pretty much all season. We need players are going to come back in. Obviously, we need to have something to change here because we can't keep playing the way that we are because it's hurting us. It's hurting us a lot, and I feel like if we have Des at the end of the season, and we're obviously not going well. Obviously, we're second last. If we still are in contention for finals, like if we're in contention with the top 8, we don't make it, and we're like, say, 9th, 10th, 11th, it'd probably be our best bet. Probably during the season, it's probably going to be there. If not, I'm hoping it's not the bottom 4 again. Then obviously completely clean out a lot of the contracts from a lot of the players that are not playing well, that have been given chance after chance after chance, and just take them out of the side. Either make deals with some teams to bring in new players, whether you bring them in from development or whether you bring them in from other teams. I don't know what the answer is, but I don't think it's Des losing his job because we've done that. The Titans fans know this, and there's still Titans fans that are like, oh yeah, sack Desi and sack the coaching staff. We've been doing this for the last decade, and it literally went since Cartwright left as our inaugural coach. We've been going through a seesaw and a carousel of coaches over the years, and it just has not worked because it's like, oh, when something doesn't work and it hasn't worked for a little bit, they fire the coach and they wonder why we're not getting results back. It's like, well, it's not the coach, it's a culture thing. It's defense. We're having teams score 30 plus points against us in almost every game, and if I look back at the games, 38, 50, 30, 38, 36, 30, 12, 6, which obviously were the 2 wins that we had this year, and then 40 as well for the Bulldogs in round 2. So literally, something is not working. The defence, for whatever reason, apart from the 2 wins that we had, which again, those 2 teams were the Knights and the Roosters were not playing well at that time. And the Knights, yes, they won last week, but they had a string of 5 games straight, 5 or 6 games there without a win. I think out of the last 7, they've had 1 win until obviously last weekend. So yeah, so something's got to happen. Something's got to change, and it's looking like David Fafita might possibly come back in the side, but he didn't play that well over the weekend for Ipswich Jets. So I don't know whether he's making it in the side or not. That's up to Des, obviously. But it is going to be a short week, obviously, going from Sunday to Friday and going to Newcastle. So we're travelling as well. So back is really against the wall at this point. And especially against the Knights, because the Knights jumped into 12th because obviously they won. They won against the Rabbitohs. And if we lose against the Knights, then we're in a big, big hole, and I don't think we're going to be making it out of the bottom 4 for the rest of the season, really, because it's struggling to win games, and we just need a circuit breaker. We need a circuit breaker somewhere, and this week's game is very important to do that. like the last couple of weeks have been like that too. Like against the Cowboys, we wanted a circuit breaker for that game because after losing to the Raiders, obviously, and then losing from obviously losing to the Dolphins, the Dragons away from home, and the Raiders at home. Yes, being away in North Queensland. North Queensland were in the middle of the eight, like the middle part of the table. So like going from like 6th right down to 13th was the area in where that team was. Obviously, I think they were in 9th because of the bye the week before. That was a game that was very important that we needed to win. And this game is more important to win because if we don't win against the Knights, I can't see where the win's going to come from because we got the Raiders the week after. Then we have the bye. Then it's the Storm, the Broncos, the Seagulls, the Eels. We might even be lucky to beat them. That might be like spoon bowl type of game between them. There's a lot of teams. Like we got the Tigers still to play twice. We still got the Rabbitohs later this year. It's just something's going to give, and I'm hoping that this week's game is a circuit breaker for them because if not, we're going to be in for a tough situation. And I feel like Des could possibly lose his job, even though that is something that we've done so many times with so many coaches in the Titans. I just feel like that board is just going to do that, whereas we should really be cleaning out some of that board because some of those board members have been there for a long time. So I don't know what it is. It's a culture thing, and for some reason it's a defensive thing. Some of these players just don't want to play, and I don't understand it. And like we've got players on the side that play week in, week out. Tino obviously as our captain. He's somebody that plays week in, week out. Bo Firma, he had a couple of errors. Obviously, he dropped a couple of easy balls during the game, but he tries his hardest all the time. AJ tries to do everything. Like the group really kind of stepped up and had a few kicks during the game as well. Some that were attacking kicks that actually worked out relatively in our favour and put pressure on the Bulldogs. So he's trying to step up and trying to do something. But there's a lot, and like Chris Randall, had to fill in for Weaver, so he was on the bench thankfully, and he's filling like that guy fills so many positions. He's such a versatile player that he plays a lot of positions on this team, and they put in effort, and then there's some players that don't put in effort. Ultimately I've seen Brian Kelly, for example, is a player that tries, and obviously he was given the goal kicking because obviously Tommy Weaver was off for the rest of the game, and he's not like our first or second pick goal kicker, but I'm sure that he's moved up. He keeps pushing up and being offside, and he let in at least 2 tries, and he got sent to the sin bin because there was a situation where he went offside twice off scrums, one after the other, which obviously is a rule that doesn't get into effect very often, but he was offside for the first one, they repacked the scrum, and he was offside for the second one, he got sent in the bin. And the team somehow played a lot better with him off the field. They only scored 2 points, I think, when he was off the field, and we had potential to score some points out on our own. And when he come back on, they scored like literally in the first, like within 5 minutes of him being on, the Bulldogs scored, and they scored some more points after that. And he just keeps coming up, keeps letting tries in. The defense for him is not his strong suit, and it's suffering. Like the team is suffering because of it. So I don't know what it is. I don't know what they have to do, but something's got to give. Like a 20-point loss, not as bad. Obviously, it was a 16-point loss the first time around. Obviously, the Bulldogs come off a loss last week, which they didn't expect. But yeah, we're almost like on the same amount of points conceded as the Eels, and the Eels are in last. And they've got 2 points more. They've conceded 2 points more than we have. So it's one of those things where something's going to give. Because if this game against the Knights on Friday is not a circuit breaker, we might be in last and we might get the wooden spoon, and that's not something that a team wants, especially this team. So I don't know what is going to happen this week, but something's got to give. Alright, well that's a rant done, but here we go. Last game, last team obviously, and it was the Giants, and they went down in the Battle of the Bridge, Sydney Derby, whatever you would like to call it. Sydney Derby 30 went down by 14 points. It was looking like it was going to be more during the last quarter, and especially with the start that Sydney had in the first quarter, which ultimately was probably the killer for the Giants, honestly. They scored 34 points, they scored 5 goals, 4, and we scored 2 goals, 1 in that first quarter. We brought it back to 14 points, thankfully, but it was a situation where they were going to win by 30, 40 points, it looked like. So it's not a bad situation. They did get within, they got to 6 points at halftime, being down. So they were only down by a goal at halftime. Obviously that kind of increased to 14 at the end of the third quarter and stayed that way in the fourth. So we just couldn't get there. I think that means that it's 5 straight that Sydney have won in terms of derbies, which is not great. That includes finals as well. So not a great game for the Giants. Obviously, they did pick it up after the first quarter, which I appreciate that they did, because they were looking like they were going to get buried, which is not something that would have been great for them. So that put Sydney up to 14th in terms of wins, because their percentage was a bit and that drops the Giants down to 8th. So literally, if we lose this week, we could drop out of the top 8 completely. So we went from the top in like the first month of the competition, and this second month has not been ideal at all. We've lost all the games this month, and like the last month that we've had, it hasn't been great. So we went from 4 wins and no losses to 4 wins and 4 losses. And we go down to the Cattery, down in Geelong, against the Cats this week. And that is going to be a crazy game. And hopefully the Giants switch on. Obviously, Geelong did win over Collingwood this week, last week, in a close one. So they're in front of us by a win at the moment. So it's 7th versus 8th at the present moment. Obviously, Brisbane moved up to the top because they won against the Gold Coast Suns in the Q Clash. But yeah, not a great result from the Giants. Obviously, the Giants, yes, did have a couple missing due to injury. But as did Sydney. Sydney have a few players that still haven't been playing well and some that are injured. So it's not really an excuse because, a lot of teams are injured right now and are suffering, and yet they're putting on performances. So still in the top 8, but hanging on for dear life. Our percentage, obviously, in the first few games was good. Obviously, we still have 115 in terms of percentage, whereas Fremantle, St Kilda, Essendon, and Port Adelaide, which are on the same amount of wins and almost the same amount of losses, like all the same amount of losses except for Essendon, because obviously they play that extra game later on this year against the Brisbane Lions, I believe, or the Gold Coast Suns. It was one of the two. Just due to the fact, obviously, with the Cyclones, obviously, in opening round. So our percentage is good. Obviously, our next month is actually not too bad in terms of games, because obviously, after we play Geelong, down at GMHBA Stadium in Geelong, we go back home to NG, which is a game I'll be going to against Fremantle. Then we'll be playing down at Marvel Stadium against Carlton, and then after that it's Richmond at home, so down at NG, so down in Sydney. So the next month is looking pretty good. Like there are some tough games, obviously against Geelong this week on what day is it? Is that Sunday? Sunday afternoon. That is going to be a tough game, obviously. Then obviously the Saturday game against Fremantle. Fremantle, you never know with Fremantle. They can be really good and can be really bad. Carlton have come back a little bit. They're in a good state of mind right now. So playing them in a couple of weeks' time, they could be well within a shot to make it into the top 8. And then Richmond obviously are near the bottom in terms of the table, and that's on May 31st on a Saturday. So interesting couple of weeks coming, but yeah, obviously Geelong, that is a huge game in terms of the top 8 because whoever loses most likely, depending on other results, obviously in Fremantle, St Kilda, Essendon and Port Adelaide's case, whatever team might lose could drop out if their percentage gets hammered. You know, if one team gets hammered or the other team gets hammered, they could fall out of the top 8. They might be just on the edge of the 8 if obviously the wins from Fremantle, St Kilda and those teams are underneath. If they're not, you know, obviously explosive wins, they might not drop out of the top 8. But losing this game coming up this week, it's not going to be great for either team. So we'll see how things go. Ultimately, it was a gallant effort for the Giants from the second quarter onwards, but they just need to be switched on for all 4 quarters because they can't keep doing this because that's been an issue for the last 4 games at least. And even like the last win that we had that sort of situation happen as well against the Saints because we could have won by more. But, you know, what else can you do? There's not much we can do about it, and ultimately we just need to improve and need to train more, and then obviously, you know, we've got to factor travel in. Obviously, can't blame travel too much because obviously we're at Sydney. It wasn't that far away from NG. It's only like maybe a little bit less than an hour. So can't blame travel too much for it. We just need to play better. We need to play all 4 quarters because it's killing us at the moment. So hopefully they can get a win down at the Cattery like they did last year and a couple of years ago. But Geelong is a tough team. Like they might be in 7th right now, but they're not that far away. Honestly, they're not that far away in terms of a couple of games this year as well. There've been a couple of close ones for them. So we'll see how we go on Sunday because that's going to be a huge clash. And that'll be it for this episode of How's My Team. Obviously, I think it's episode 8. We've been through a lot of downs this week, but we've had some highs with obviously the Wanderers getting home final. But we'll see how they go. I think it was official, obviously, since this is Monday. It is official that it is now a Saturday game. A Saturday night game, whereas the other game is on Friday night in terms of elimination finals. So that's going to be interesting. Interesting 2 games for the sides. Obviously, I'll be able to probably see the game on Saturday night because I do work a little bit early on Saturday. I work during the middle of the day, so I should be able to watch the game live on Saturday night. So we'll see how the Wanderers go. Hopefully they can win over the Victory at home because it's one and done at this point. If we lose this game, we're out. If we win, obviously the semi-finals is on 2 legs, which we could, if we're the highest, we obviously go against Auckland, which means that we have to travel to New Zealand and back. But if not, and we're the lowest seed, then we play against Melbourne City in Melbourne and at home as well. So not sure which way it's going to go, whether they play at home first. Like obviously the first semi-final is played at the team that's in first or second, and then they play the away game. I'm not sure which way it is because if it's one way or the other way, I might be able to watch it. It just depends on what day and what time. But we'll see how things go, because, you know. But with all that said, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of How's My Team. This has been Mario Mantas 100. You guys have a great day or night, and of course, take care.